The United States has bombed 3 nuclear sites in Iran, further escalating the war between Israel and Iran. President Donald Trump late on Saturday said the U.S. attacks obliterated the Iranian facilities in Fordow, Isfahan, and Natanz as he threatened more strikes to eliminate the country's nuclear enrichment capacity if Tehran does not make peace. Iran acknowledged the attacks, saying its personnel working at the nuclear sites were evacuated before the attacks. The U.S. strikes came more than a week after Israel launched a military campaign against Iran, which retaliated with missile attacks, resulting in hundreds of casualties on both sides. Here are some key reactions from around the world following the U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear sites. Iran. In his first public remarks after the strikes, Iranian Minister of Foreign Affairs Abbas Araghchi accused the U.S. of breaching international law. The United States, a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, has committed a grave violation of the UN Charter, international law, and the NPT, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, by attacking Iran's peaceful nuclear installations, Araghchi said in a social media post. The events this morning Sunday are outrageous and will have everlasting consequences. Each and every member of the UN must be alarmed over this extremely dangerous, lawless, and criminal behavior. He added that Iran reserves all options to defend its sovereignty, interest, and people. Israel. Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a televised statement. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. United Nations. I am gravely alarmed by the use of force by the United States against Iran today, Secretary General Antonio Guterres said. This is a dangerous escalation in a region already on the edge, and a direct threat to international peace and security, he said, adding that there is a growing risk that this conflict could rapidly get out of control, with catastrophic consequences for civilians, the region, and the world. Guterres called on member states to de-escalate and uphold their obligations under the UN Charter and other rules of international law. At this perilous hour, it is critical to avoid a spiral of chaos. There is no military solution. The only path forward is diplomacy. The only hope is peace. Hamas. In a statement, the Palestinian armed group said it condemned, in the strongest terms, the brazen aggression of the United States against the territory and sovereignty of Iran. The U.S. aggression against Iran is a dangerous escalation, blind obedience to the occupiers' agenda, and a clear violation of international law, Hamas said. We declare our solidarity with Iran, its leadership, and its people, and we have full confidence in Iran's ability to defend its sovereignty. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia expressed its great concern following the U.S. attacks, according to a statement by the Foreign Ministry on X. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is following with great concern the developments in the sisterly Islamic Republic of Iran, represented by the targeting of Iranian nuclear facilities by the United States of America, the Saudi Foreign Ministry posted on X. The kingdom expresses the need to exert all efforts to exercise restraint, de-escalate, and avoid escalation, calling on the international community to boost efforts in such highly sensitive circumstances to reach a political solution to end the crisis. Qatar. Qatar says it fears serious repercussions after the U.S. airstrikes on nuclear facilities in Iran. The Foreign Ministry warns that the current dangerous escalation in the region may lead to catastrophic consequences at both the regional and international levels, a statement said. It calls on all parties to exercise wisdom, restraint, and to avoid further escalation. Oman. Oman, which was mediating nuclear talks between the U.S. and Iran, has strongly condemned the U.S. strikes. The Gulf state expresses deep concern, denunciation, and condemnation of the escalation resulting from the direct airstrikes launched by the United States on sites in the Islamic Republic of Iran, the official Oman news agency said. Iraq. Iraq has warned the U.S. attacks on its neighbor Iran's nuclear facilities threaten peace and stability in the Middle East. This military escalation constitutes a grave threat to peace and security in the Middle East and poses serious risks to regional stability, government spokesperson Bassem Alawadi said. Russia. Russia's foreign ministry said it strongly condemns the U.S. attacks on Iran. The irresponsible decision to subject the territory of a sovereign state to missile and bomb attacks, whatever the arguments it may be presented with, flagrantly violates international law, the Charter of the United Nations, and the resolutions of the United Nations Security Council, the ministry said in its statement. We call for an end to aggression and for increased efforts to create conditions for returning the situation to a political and diplomatic track. China. The foreign ministry said it strongly condemns U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear sites that seriously violate the purposes and principles of the UN Charter and international law and have exacerbated tensions in the Middle East. China calls on the parties to the conflict, Israel in particular, to reach a ceasefire as soon as possible, ensure the safety of civilians, and start dialogue and negotiation, the ministry said on X. China stands ready to work with the international community to pool efforts together and uphold justice, and work for restoring peace and stability in the Middle East, it added. United Kingdom. Prime Minister Keir Starmer urged Iran to return to the negotiating table and said that stability in the region remained a priority, according to a statement from Downing Street. Iran's nuclear program is a grave threat to international security. Iran can never be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon, and the U.S. has taken action to alleviate that threat, Starmer said in a statement. European Union. The EU's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas has called for de-escalation and a return to negotiations. I urge all sides to step back, return to the negotiating table, and prevent further escalation, Kallas wrote on X, adding Iran must not be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon and that EU foreign ministers will discuss the situation on Monday. France. France's Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot has expressed concern and urged the parties to exercise restraint to avoid any escalation likely to lead to an extension of the conflict. In a statement on X, he added that France was convinced that a lasting solution to this issue requires a negotiated solution within the framework of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Germany. Chancellor Friedrich Merz has called on Iran to immediately re-enter nuclear talks with the U.S. so there can be a diplomatic solution, according to government spokesperson. The Chancellor and Security Cabinet ministers will coordinate closely with their European Union and U.S. partners throughout the day, spokesman Stefan Cornelius said in a statement. Italy. Now we hope that, after this attack, which caused massive damage to nuclear weapons production and posed a threat to the entire region, a de-escalation can begin and Iran can sit down at the negotiating table, Italy's Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani told state broadcaster RAI. Switzerland. Switzerland has urged all parties to exercise maximum restraint and immediately return to diplomacy after the United States joined Israel's war with Tehran by striking Iranian nuclear sites. Switzerland emphasizes the importance of full respect for international law, including the UN Charter and international humanitarian law, the Foreign Ministry said on its website. U.S. Democrats. The top Democrat in the House of Representatives accused Trump of pushing the country towards war. President Trump misled the country about his intentions, failed to seek congressional authorization for the use of military force, and risks American entanglement in a potentially disastrous war in the Middle East, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries said in a statement. Donald Trump shoulders complete and total responsibility for any adverse consequences that flow from his unilateral military action. U.S. groups CARE and AIPAC. The Council on American-Islamic Relations, CARE, a U.S. Muslim rights group, said the U.S. attack is an illegal and unjustified act of war that comes under pressure from the out-of-control Israeli government. And despite the long-standing conclusion of the U.S. intelligence that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon. On the other hand, the American-Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, the powerful pro-Israel group in the U.S., praised the strikes ordered by Trump and said the U.S. must now work with our allies to protect our troops and regional interests against Iranian attacks. Japan. Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba told reporters that it is crucial that there is a quick de-escalation of the conflict. We are closely monitoring the situation there with grave concern, he said. ICAN. The International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons says the U.S. military strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities were senseless and reckless. By joining Israel's attack on Iran, the U.S. is also breaking international law. Military action against Iran is not the way to resolve concerns over Tehran's nuclear program, ICAN's executive director Melissa Park said in a statement. Given that U.S. intelligence agencies assess Iran is not pursuing nuclear weapons, this is a senseless and reckless act that could undermine international efforts to prevent the further proliferation of nuclear weapons. Geneva-based ICAN won the 2017 Nobel Peace Prize for its key role in drafting the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which took effect in 2021. Some 69 countries have ratified it to date, 4 more have directly acceded to the treaty, and another 25 have signed it, although none of the nuclear weapons states have come on board. A satellite image shows trucks positioned near the entrance of the Fordow fuel enrichment facility, near Qom, Iran, June 19, 2025, Maxar Technologies /handout via Reuters. Australia. We have been clear that Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program has been a threat to international peace and security, the Australian government spokesperson said. We note the U.S. president's statement that now is the time for peace, he said, adding that the security situation in the region is highly volatile. We continue to call for de-escalation, dialogue, and diplomacy, the spokesperson said. New Zealand. We acknowledge developments in the last 24 hours, including President Trump's announcement of U.S. strikes on nuclear facilities in Iran, Foreign Minister Winston Peters said. Ongoing military action in the Middle East is extremely worrying, and it is critical further escalation is avoided, he said, adding that New Zealand strongly supports efforts towards diplomacy. We urge all parties to return to talks. Diplomacy will deliver a more enduring resolution than further military action. Mexico. The ministry urgently calls for diplomatic dialogue for peace between the parties involved in the Middle East conflict, Mexico's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in a statement on their X account. In keeping with our constitutional principles of foreign policy and our country's pacifist conviction, we reiterate our call to de-escalate tensions in the region, the ministry said. The restoration of peaceful coexistence among the states of the region is the highest priority. Venezuela. Venezuela condemns U.S. military aggression against Iran and demands an immediate cessation of hostilities, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Gil said in a Telegram post. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela firmly and categorically condemns the bombing carried out by the United States military, at the request of the State of Israel, against nuclear facilities in the Islamic Republic of Iran, including the Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan complexes, he said. Cuba. Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel strongly condemned the U.S. bombing, saying it constituted a dangerous escalation and a serious violation of the UN Charter. He added that it plunges humanity into a crisis with irreversible consequences. Chile. Chilean President Gabriel Boric also called the U.S. action illegal. Chile condemns this U.S. attack, he wrote on X. Having power does not authorize you to use it in violation of the rules that we as humanity have given ourselves, even if you are the United States.